Andretti is one of the most controversial faces on the grid right now, and it seems like he wants all the beef with the team bosses. However, things could turn ugly for him in an instant, and instead of enjoying the drama and laughing from home, Andretti could lose the 11th spot on the grid, which he has worked so hard for and isn't guaranteed yet. The FIA and Formula 1 have sent yet another warning to Andretti, and now he is walking on thin ice. The FIA has posted a tweet in which they say that the official talks regarding the entrance of the 11th team on the grid have started. This eventually means that Andretti is the favorite for the spot because he's been trying to enter F1 ever since forever. Still, it's not a guarantee that he'll be the 11th team on the grid because there are some other teams that would kill to be in Andretti's position, like Calvin Lowe, Hyundai or Ford. That is something that the FIA had to remind Andretti of yet again, but now a very tough challenge is presented ahead of the American rock star when it comes to entering F1. Many have started to wonder whether Andretti has it in himself to lead a team in Formula 1 and whether what he's doing right now is out of pure boredom or wanting to prove something to the world. Andretti has signed a contract with GM, a company that is very serious when it comes to racing and one that he wanted to get involved with F1 for quite some time now. The all-American dream is slowly but surely becoming a reality, and we have to adapt to that. But Andretti has been sent a warning that F1 isn't a circus, although it can seem like that on many occasions, and leading an F1 team could be a challenge that's much harder to maintain over time. Just look at what happened with teams like Manor, and look at what's happening with Haas, a team that is the last one to join the grid and still has no wins after more than 140 starts. What Andretti fails to understand, mostly because of his lack of experience and knowledge of the sport, is the fact that Formula 1 is a sport in which the strong eat the weak. This means that Andretti won't have numerous chances to prove himself that he brings value to the table. And if he fails to do so in the first year or the second one, he'll likely either go bankrupt or be thrown out of it. It's the most elitist sport in the world, with only 10 teams racing for the majority of its existence. Sure, there were as many as 12 teams, and although that is something that the FIA would be more than happy to see happening again, certain individuals like Stefano Domenicali and Toto Wolff would have a say against it. What's more, the BBC has warned Andretti that the magnitude of the sport is something he should never, ever underestimate. And it's not just smiles and laughs on the grid that we see on TV. When talking about this matter, the medium said, "Within F1, there is a general sense that many of those racing in America in categories where teams buy cars off the shelf and run them with fairly small-scale operations don't quite grasp just how high the level is in F1, how complex the task is." Obviously, Andretti isn't here to play games, and the fact that he's involved as GM in this whole situation means that they are on a mission to prove to the world that they know what they've gotten themselves into. They also have signed a contract with an F1 engine manufacturer, and while many suspect that this is Honda, it hasn't been officially announced by Andretti or Mark Royce, the CEO of GM. Still, this is something that we'd have to wait until the beginning of 2026 season to see the performance of and the final outcome, but as of now it seems like Andretti is slowly but surely completing the all-American dream. Haas, on the other hand, is a team that resides in the USA, and the continued presence of it in the sport goes to show that even if you have two very miserable seasons, with 2020 ending with only 3 points and 2021 with 0 points, you can still fight for competitiveness. In 2022, we've seen that Haas has brought a very improved car, and they'll likely continue on this path from 2023 onward. Sure, they aren't fighting for wins, but given the dominance of the top dogs in Ferrari, Mercedes and Red Bull, we aren't really certain whether there is a team that can fight for wins beside them. What we're very certain of is the fact that the popularity of F1 in the USA has grown to a point of no return, and F1 should embrace this rather than throw it away. The sport had a very bad relationship with the North American continent, and after hosting one race for so many years, in 2023, it will host 3 races in Austin, Miami, and Las Vegas. Everyone expected this to happen, but now that it has, people aren't prepared to deal with the rest of the consequences. You cannot have increased popularity from a certain continent, especially America, and not expect a fully American team to be present on the grid. who are the Americans going to cheer for? True, fans aren't concerned with nationality or anything else, but when you have a team from your home country, it goes without saying that they'll be the main reason you'll be attending races. The revenue from 2020 to 2022 has increased massively, and while we cannot take 2020 as a proper year to compare things due to COVID messing up the whole calendar, 2021 and 2022 did their thing. The documentary Drive to Survive has boosted the number of new fans, especially those from the USA, and that has resulted in an enormous audience being present in Austin and Miami this year. From the next season on, Las Vegas is going to be fully packed, and the fact that Andretti wants to create a team that will employ an American driver, likely Colton Herta, just goes along with this narrative. The sport is growing in another direction, whether we like that or not. Stefano Domenicali and Toto Wolff are very reluctant when it comes to expanding, with Domenicali adding that the sport is all about quality and not quantity, while Wolff adding that Andretti cannot prove that he'll add more value to the sport rather than take away from it. Steiner, on the other hand, said that the dilution fund that Andretti is supposed to pay for entering the sport is not enough, and that those $200 million should be $600 million. Andretti has been very angry with how Formula 1 and the FIA have treated him in the previous period, and that is why he's been going on a rant regarding how he's been treated by the sport and by the team bosses. When Wolff said that Audi would be a much better choice for an 11th team, Andretti added that manufacturers come and go, and we're here to stay. Still, Andretti believes that F1 team bosses are full of greed, which is why he smashed them for their actions towards him and his company, further adding, it's all about money. First, they think that they're going to get diluted 1/10 of their prize money, but they also get very greedy, thinking we will take all the American sponsors as well. It's all about greed and looking at themselves, and not looking at what is best for the overall growth of the series. Also, the team bosses weren't really happy with how Andretti signed a contract with GM, and although this proves his point that American investors are going to flood the sport in times to come, it is still something that failed to impress the team bosses, which is why they urged the FIA to do something about it. Asked whether he's surprised by these actions, Andretti added, I'm not surprised. In F1, the owners look out for themselves, not what is best for the series. That is the difference between President Mohammed's position and the team owner's position. President Mohammed is looking out for the future of the sport. Mohammed gets it. He's a racer and he understands the series needs to have one or two more teams. It is an FIA championship and it holds most of the cards to get the expression of interest going. With that being said, it's going to be a very interesting period ahead for Andretti and Formula 1, with the FIA taking a different approach to where the sport is moving compared to Formula 1 in general. Mohammed bin Sulayem understood that the sport is expanding, and with increased interest and increased revenue come certain tasks that cannot be denied or thrown from the window. What do you think about Andretti's warning that he's received from the FIA? Let us know in the comments below.